Chapter 7, the test of discipleship. Sounds kind of ominous, but it's important to understand what this test of discipleship is truly about. Have you ever asked yourself, how do I know that I'm truly a disciple of Christ? How do I know that I am following him? Well, Jesus' parable, or Jesus' description to Nicodemus, is where this chapter starts out. He told Nicodemus, the wind blows and you can't see it. You don't know where it comes from. You may not know where it's going, but you can see the evidence that it is there. You can see that evidence that God has been moving. And so it is with those who follow Christ. That's how we determine if we're disciples or not. Now, we often make the jump right here incorrectly. Notice this next statement. It is true that there may be an outward correctness of deportment without the renewing power of Christ. Often we look at our outward behavior to determine if we're disciples of Christ. We say if the wind's moving, we're going to see that outward correctness of behavior. But the statement goes on, we may see an outward correctness of deportment without the renewing power of Christ. The love of influence, the desire for esteem of others, may produce a well-ordered life. Self-respect may lead us to avoid the appearance of evil. So outward behavior is not the evidence that you are a disciple of Christ. You can have a selfish heart and still do things to look good. So what truly is the evidence? What should you look for to see the evidence that the Spirit is moving in your heart? This next statement. Who has the heart? With whom are our thoughts? Of whom do we love to converse? Who has our warmest affections and our best energies? If we are Christ's, our thoughts are with him. See, it's an internal thing. When you love someone, you think about them. You want to be with them. This is the evidence the Spirit is moving. It's not something we can produce on our own. We can't produce that internal love for God. You don't go out and say, you know what, I'm going to choose to love that person romantically. It's something that just springs up and happens. And that's the way it is with love for God, only it doesn't just happen. He produces it within you, but it's not something you can do on your own. So who has your heart? If you don't see that evidence, it's not up to you to produce that evidence. Look to Jesus. Behold his love, and he will overflow in your heart. His love will overflow in your heart. When, as erring sinful beings, we come to Christ and become partakers of his pardoning grace, love springs up in the heart. Every burden is light, for the yoke that Christ imposes is easy. Duty becomes a delight, and sacrifice a pleasure. The path that before seemed shrouded in darkness becomes bright with the beams of the Sun of Righteousness. If you find yourself struggling, working under a heavy load in your Christian experience, that's not what God has called you to. He calls you to an experience that is naturally overflowing with his love, welling up in your heart, so that your path is light and your burden is easy. Today, let the love of God define for you that you are a disciple of Christ.